Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's September 5, 2019, and this is episode 675. This week I bring you an interview with the man behind PHLEARN, Nace, in which Aaron shares some stories about how he got started and what led him to create one of the most popular learning sites on the web. I actually was hoping to release my upcoming mentorship program before I released this episode, but I need a little more time, so I hope you enjoy my chat with Aaron in the meantime. Also note that I'm putting this out as an audio podcast, but we actually recorded it via Zoom with video, and I used the green screen technique that I discussed in episode 673 to transport myself into a beautiful gallery. So I'll share that as a video as well, and you can find both at mbp.ac/675. So for now, enjoy my conversation with Aaron Nace. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. We're going to jump in and talk about a bunch of stuff. One of the things that I'm really hoping that we can get into is talk about the topic that I discussed on my blog a few weeks ago about alternatives to the Creative Cloud, but I know that you're still heavily into that, and I'm still using it, and I've got nothing against Photoshop or Adobe, so we're not going to be bashing anybody, but I think there are a lot of people out there that are looking for alternatives as well. So we'll jump into that in a moment. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started as a creative?
Yeah, so my actual background is in design. I studied design in school, and it was only until after I graduated that I became really just enthralled in the world of photography. It was my first camera was a digital camera, so I feel like I'm, this was I would say 2002, 2003. So it's been a while now, but I still feel like I'm a pretty newcomer to the world of photography. And again, it was after university. I was doing a lot of traveling and just fell in love with photography. It was at that time just a way for me to capture the places that I was in. And I was just in such a good place in my life, and I wanted to capture everything. When I got back from my extended trip, I realized that obviously I had such a good experience traveling, but I also really loved the photography part of it. And so I started looking into it more and more, and I was like, wow, there's so much here. I kind of went from the transition of shooting with a point and shoot to oh, wow, there's no limit to where this can go. Just wherever the imagination takes you, photography can follow you there. And that kind of guided my path through where we are today. And at the time I was working a full-time job, and went through that transition where I struggled with myself, can I make this work? Can I possibly quit my job and make it as a full-time photographer? So I did, and went through that transition as a creative, and then kind of basically just, I could talk on this for forever, but
that's fine.
Yeah, basically.
So when was that? I think it was 10 years or so ago when you started to do this as your full-time thing?
Yeah, it was a little over 10 years ago when I quit my job and basically decided I wanted to do this full-time. I didn't really know what I was doing. At the time, I really didn't have much of a concept of professional photographers. I didn't really even know what that meant. I just knew that I loved photography, and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. And I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want a job taking away time from my passion. So I was I got to figure out how to make this my job.
Yeah. I can fully relate to that. I mean, I was out in society. I did all sorts, moved to Japan when I was like 24 and went to college over here. But then I got a job myself. It was totally non-creative, as in the photography sort of creative. It was creative in that we were doing lots of business things and stuff. But when I quit that job, one of the first things my boss said when I said I was going to quit was, just give us 2 or 3 days a week, and then you can do your photography in the other days. And I thought, just like you just said, you want to concentrate everything you've got on it. So I said, no, I don't do anything by halves. I'm just going to go and I'm going to see if I can make the most of this. So I can fully relate to that. I saw from your bio, you're born in Kauai in Hawaii.
Yeah.
How long were you there? Until what age, roughly?
I moved when I was 12 years old. So,
okay.
Yeah, basically like my childhood. I mean, I feel like who I am as a person is defined by the early parts of my life. And, the, always outside, always getting into trouble, always playing outdoors. I mean, no one locks their doors in Hawaii. It's just, my parents would say, Saturday morning, go have fun with your brothers. And we would just go exploring the island for, 12, 14 hours at a time, come back like head to toe in mud and ready for dinner. And that was like a typical, day for us as kids. Yeah. And, it really helped to like build that creative spirit for me. And also I think like the idea of, my parents put a lot of trust in us to go out and kind of explore on our own. And, the idea of starting a business, I think because I was, kind of like had the idea of exploring things on my own from an early age. I think, actually, so I'm one of 3 boys. I'm the middle child, and both of my other brothers are business owners as well. So we all got the spirit of, doing something for ourselves and building something for ourselves. And I really feel like it was our childhood that helped us build the confidence to go out and do something, maybe a little off the beaten path.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how much our parents realize that they're forming who we become when we're kids. I'm sure a lot of it is just natural and just instinctive parenting. But, my mum used, to this day, I quote her almost daily. She used to always say to me, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And the other one was, if you're going to have one, have a big one. And so I always end up buying the best that I can. And it's often not by choice. It's just instinctual. But I sort of put everything I have into jobs that I do. And I even remember in the company that I used to work for before I made this my full-time job, I had to be trained to sort of to ease off a little bit on the quality. And that was kind of like anti sort of, everything I've ever done. But they were saying, look, you're doing a great job, but it's too good. And, you could actually, if you stop like at, the 80-20 rules, they'd say, if you stop at 80%, you could probably please more than 80% of the audience or the customers. So just stop a little bit earlier and we'll use that, because that last 20% is a little bit too perfect. And so I had to be trained to pull back on that a little bit.
That's tough. I don't think I could do that.
It was tough. And you know what? Since I moved out of that environment, I think I've gone back to the 100%. So but I enjoy it. I enjoy making quality products. And I think that, that's obviously what you've done. And so, the next thing I wanted to talk about, of course, is PHLEARN. You've built probably one of the most successful online education services systems that's available today. Tell us a little bit more about PHLEARN.
Yeah, well, I think, just as a person, I relate to you a lot because I'm the same way. Like I absolutely obsessive when it comes to creating things. And again, if there's any flaws that I can possibly fix or anything that I can possibly do, I'm the type of person who it doesn't matter what else is going around. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. I want everything to be the best it possibly can be. And when I started PHLEARN, it was mostly just it was a desire to make something that I wanted to exist in the world. At the time, I was in love with photography, also really deep into Photoshop, and I was doing a lot of conceptual photography. And that involved, not only planning what I was going to do, with a camera, but also planning how I was going to pull maybe multiple different images together in Photoshop to make a final composite that looked realistic. And I found all this stuff. I mean, I think the reason I loved it is because it's difficult. It's really, really hard to do. I mean, to this day, and I've been doing it for a long time, it's very difficult to take pictures in different locations with different lighting and different subjects and put them all together and make it look 100% real. It's very hard to do. And that to me was just like, I got to do this, like, it's creative. It's incredibly difficult to do, but you can also, you can make incredible images using, just pushing yourself and learning all you can. So through my own journey of like wanting to do this, I realized that there was just not that much out there teaching what I wanted to learn. It was like, I got to do this myself, kind of like I just got to figure it out. Like, why is no one teaching how to do this stuff? And so that was just like, okay, well, I want this to exist. I want there to be a place where you can go and learn this stuff. And first of all, I don't think everyone should have to pay for this stuff because, there are obviously some people who can afford higher level education, but there are a lot of folks who don't have the income to pay for this sort of thing. So I was like, I got to make videos, I got to put them on the internet, and I got to make them for free and teach like really good information, the stuff that I wanted to learn. So that's kind of been the goal since day one. And we've been making free tutorials on YouTube every single week for almost 10 years now. And we're still making them. We released a video on Tuesday on creating a tilt shift effect. We've got another coming out next week. So it's every single week for this period of time. And I've got to say, through these videos and through platforms like YouTube and social media, we've been able to like really build a super strong community. And, we also have a subscription product on our website. So it's kind of like Netflix for creatives. You basically just, pay an annual subscription and you get access to all of our advanced tutorials. It's really, really cool. And I really feel like everything that we've put out there for free on YouTube is just been, I don't know, it's been like, that's kind of like the core of where I'm about. And then our subscription platform on our website is like, this is where we can take things to the next level. Like on a YouTube, we can make a 15-minute video and fantastic. I can show you one thing in 15 minutes, but sometimes things take hours to learn, like complicated topics, or maybe you want to learn. We just released a tutorial called Master Hair Retouching. It's all about retouching hair. As you can imagine, everyone has different types of hair. It's a bunch of different use cases. Like there's not just one technique that you would want to learn. So it's 4 hours, broken up into section by section. So you don't have to, it's not one video, right? But it's 4 hours on this one topic. And so that's where we were able to kind of like, build this other side of the business out of it, was like this increased demand, especially for these more advanced concepts.
The more I talk with you, the more, we keep saying that, we're very similar in that. Because that's basically why I'm here. I started my podcast 14 years ago now.
Wow.
And it's like, I just started throwing it. It started because I wanted to start and do something. I wanted to put something out there, and it's all grown from there. And it's, fundamentally still the podcast is free every week, almost every week. I try to do every week. Don't quite manage it when I'm traveling sometimes, but put something out there every week, and that's helped me to sort of, people have found some value in it, and they come back. And so, now I have a few other things that I've attached onto that. The main thing for me has been tours. I was able to start almost on on request from the audience that I'd built towards the end of, well, around 2008, I think it was. We started doing tours, and it's all sort of grown organically. And it really started just from me, the desire to create something and put it out there. And so very, very similar in that way. Have you been, have you got education in computers, technical skills and things as well? Or how are you on that side?
Yeah, it's funny. Computers have always just come they've made sense to me. Like ever since I used, the very first piece of electronics I ever got. I mean, I remember, man, I was a little kid. I was still in Hawaii at the time. So I was probably 8, 10 years old or something like that. And I remember our VCR broke. And I was like, well, can I take it apart and try to fix it? My parents were like, sure, yeah, it's broken. So you're not going to broken it more. So I took it apart and, messed with it for a couple hours, and I got it working again.
I've done exactly the same thing.
I don't remember what I did. I have no idea how a VCR works. I was just like, this should do that should do that. Oh, this isn't doing like it should. And I put it back
rubber
together.
Belts.
Yeah, it was probably a little belt or something, something very simple. But, to me, the idea of taking something apart and putting it back together again has always been really fun. And computers, I think maybe I was just born at the right time to where computers, kind of came into my life at an early enough stage. And I've always just been a little bit more technical oriented. So I've always found that difficult balance between I love the art side of things, and I would consider myself an artist and a creative, but I'm also super, super technical. So sometimes I find that my desire to be highly technical can actually kind of get in the way of the art a little bit. I focus too much on the technical side. So it's kind of something I've always struggled with.
Yeah, I'm the same. So as I mentioned, I released this post a couple of weeks ago about how I'm gradually sort of moving away from the Creative Cloud, and I'm going to be using Photoshop because it's sort of like a staple. And there are many ways I have to have it because there are plugins that won't work in the alternative that I've found, not yet. But it's also, I sell products, I sell some scripts and things that work with Photoshop. And so that's going to stay, but I've pretty much gotten rid of all of the other products that I've used for years. And some of the alternatives that I've found, I think, the blog itself was very popular. There's lots of comments on there. And so I think it's a common thing that a lot more people seem to be moving that way. And as I said, it's not nothing against Adobe. I've got a lot of respect for Adobe as a company, and I think they've done so much they were the first real company to bring out these editing tools. So, we owe them a lot as well. But the way things are going, I'm slightly shifting away. I've started to use the main one that I'm in at the moment. My new best friend is Affinity Publisher from Serif, and they're actually a Nottingham-based company. I was born and raised near Nottingham in England, so I'm pretty proud to see that a company from my hometown almost is doing so well. But I found that Publisher is, it's everything that I'd pretty much always wished InDesign would be. And it's just, to me, it's so much more intuitive and easy to use. And it's like the cost of less than or about 1 month of the Creative Cloud. So I decided to sort of, jump in, pay the one-time license fee, which there'll be upgrades, of course, but I've managed to replace pretty much everything for the cost of 4 months of the Creative Cloud. So,
wow.
So that's why I'm sort of got thinking about it all. I know that a lot of your training is still Photoshop based, but do you use any alternatives as well yourself?
So I do a decent bit of drawing and sketching on an iPad. I've got an iPad Pro with the pencil, and there's an app called Procreate.
Oh yeah, I know that.
I love that app. It's built so incredibly well. The rendering, drawing with the pencil tool looks like you're using a real pencil. And I got to say, the new the new iPad Pro and the Pencil, it's incredibly responsive, and I just find myself like enjoying drawing again.
Yeah.
I used to draw a lot as a kid and kind of, like left it behind a little bit just because I got interested in other things. But I've been drawing again, and I think that app has a lot to do with it. So that's one of the big ones. And I know Photoshop is in development for, Adobe is in development for Photoshop for the iPad. And I've had the opportunity to test the beta, and it's really, really good. And I'm excited to see where they're going to go with that too, especially if they release and get the release notes. But yeah, I do see smaller publishers coming out with pieces of software that are honestly very, very good. And I think that especially when it comes to the mobile world, because Adobe has been such a giant in desktop software, these other programs like Affinity have, kind of come out and been able to build on like a mobile first mentality, where they're doing incredible stuff with, their mobile platform, but it's also, tied into the desktop. I know Affinity Photo uses the same file format for their mobile files as well as on their desktop. So it's a very seamless experience. Yeah. And I think these new publishers are really coming out with some incredible things. And I am interested in, I realize that a big part of the draw right now, especially for these other publishers, is the fact that it's not subscription based. It's a one-time fee, and you get the program. And maybe that will always be the case for these other publishers. But I can't help but wonder if they go bigger, are they going to jump on the subscription bandwagon? Because business-wise, you make more money that way, right? Yeah. So or maybe not. I don't know. I don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe you make more money the other way. But I just wonder. Is there something? Has Affinity come out and said we'll never switch to subscription? Is that like?
I think that they've got statements to that effect, but they're obviously their pricing and their marketing to the people that like me who've decided they've had enough with the. I should say though that I was never really against subscription models per se. I know a lot of people were sort of almost like an allergic reaction. I was fine to jump onto the subscription model. And I was, to me, it was actually cheaper in many ways because I was paying the $1,000 or probably a lot more, $2,000-$3,000 for the full master suite on CD. And that was a big investment. When the cloud first came out, it was only like $4 something, or in yen, I remember paying something like 4,000 something a month. So not $4, $40 or so for everything. And I thought, well, that's actually, if you work out how much I was paying every other year for a full upgrade for the master suite, it's actually going to be cheaper. But then the thing for me was that it got gradually more expensive, and then there was a stealth increase in, when would it have been? It was while I was in Namibia. Earlier this year, I got back and noticed that my subscription had gone up to 6,000 yen or something, which was about, I think it worked out at about almost $60. And I thought, well, they seem to be taking a little bit more frequently than I would have hoped. And that's what started me thinking. And then and this is perfect timing. And this is another part of the power of marketing, in that Serif then sent out an email saying, Publisher has just been released, and we're going to give it you for $40 instead of $60 for the first so many weeks. Not just me, but that was how they launched. And I thought, well, okay, I'm frustrated with InDesign. It never works the way I want it to. It's and I've done the lynda.com training, and maybe I should have come to PHLEARN, but I've done training on it, and I've been using it for years, and yet still every so often there is, probably every other week. I do an ebook, like a small article ebook every week, and every other week
Wow.
something gets me, and I have to go back to the drawing board, and it takes me an extra couple of hours to do what should take me an hour. And I thought, software shouldn't be like this. And so I thought, so what? $40, I'll give it a try. And I picked up Affinity Publisher from Serif, and it just worked. It did everything. It worked exactly how I kept sniggering to myself and turning to my wife saying, this is how InDesign should work. And so it was, to me, it was a bit of a revelation. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make it work and get out of the environment that I'm in with the Creative Cloud. And that was, this was kind of probably the Brit in me, like Brexit and everything. You waft a bit of a, I know this, I shouldn't really talk about politics, but if you throw a gauntlet down to a Brit, they're generally going to pick it up and slap you in the face with it. And I think that's what happened, because the next thing that did happen was I went to see if I could cancel the Creative Cloud, and they were asking for like $400 to do so, because I'd literally just extended for another year, and I didn't even realize I'd done that. So it all got me sort of thinking, you know what, I've just had I've had enough of this. So I decided to see if I could get out of there. I ended up sticking with Photoshop because I do think that's, there are many ways that I have to use it. But I've also bought Affinity Photo, which is their competitor to Photoshop. Again, it was a one-off payment. I do understand what you're saying, though. Because from a lot of companies' perspectives, the subscription model makes more sense. They've got constant revenue coming in. And so from a business perspective, if they had kept the price at what I thought it was worth, I'd still be doing it. I probably wouldn't have even been tempted. So it was just that things were creeping up a little bit. And I'm a little bit more lax than most people when it comes to paying out money. I tend to open my wallet a little bit too easily, and so for me, it's not that I'm sort of being stingy, as we'd say in the UK, but I really just found that they were pushing it a little bit too far for my liking.
Yeah, and especially because they raised the prices without telling you. That's I feel like that's just a breach of trust.
They may have sent an email, but I didn't notice anything. And I saw a number of people that were saying that they were a little bit shocked by the increase. So I don't know. Like I say, I've got a lot of respect for them as a company, but I'm out of there as far as the whole suite's concerned. So you mentioned the Procreate on the iPad. I have Procreate. I know that when I first got it, I actually, rather than drawing something from scratch, I brought in a photograph and sort of made it half transparent and then started to draw over it. I think it was my Fox photo, and I got to like the 13 millionth hair, and I thought, I'm just going to put this down for a while. It was one of those things that I like the program, not really made enough of a giving it enough time to really say that I'm very good with it, but I do enjoy drawing as well. Are there any other things? Do you actually, when you go out photographing, you were talking about your iPad Pro and that, do you try to travel light and have as fewer tools as possible, or do you take I take a laptop and all of my drives and things. How do you travel?
These days I travel as light as possible. I'll take my iPad with me, and I usually take a light body. These days, like the Sony A7R III is kind of like my main take-around camera. It's a mirrorless camera, and I'll take one lens with me. Usually, I have a 35-2.8. It's pretty inexpensive. But it's small. It's really, really small and super lightweight. So, with that combination, I can take pictures. Obviously, like the professional, and I'm using air quotes if you're just listening, photographer in me is like, yeah, of course I want all my lenses and I want all my cool stuff, because imagine what I could do. But at the end of the day, when I'm traveling and I'm out and about, like I want to be super lightweight. was just in Mexico, and I just brought a backpack with me. That's it. And that was, again, my iPad, some clothes, a little one of those portable chargers, my camera, and just a couple other things. And to me, that was incredibly freeing. And I find that oftentimes when I take a lot of my equipment, I don't wind up using the majority of it. And I just look back at the end of the trip. I'm like, why did I bring all this stuff? It's just really heavy. Like, why was I just trying to get a workout in? So these days I try to travel extremely light. And when I'm traveling for work and I'm traveling and have a specific goal in mind, then I'm going to most definitely bring all the tools necessary for that job. But when it's just for personal travels, I try to keep it as light as possible.
Yeah, I'm with you. I take a little bit too much on the computer side. Maybe not too much. I'm actually, I have small SSDs that I use for my images and for my libraries, catalogs. But I also take a MacBook, an iPad Pro. So I've actually got two. For me, it's partly, I know it's like almost the same size screen. I like to have the power that my laptop gives me. And although I do realize that I've got one of the first iPad Pros, like almost a 13-inch screen. The reason I carry both is because most of the time when I'm traveling, I'm in a workshop environment. I'm with guests. And so what I do is I use, forget the name of it, from the company that made AstroPad, I think it is. It's a little dongle that you put into the USB-C port, and it basically gives you a second screen. So even if I'm in the middle of the desert or so in Namibia or in Morocco or wherever, I can sit and have one side of the table looking at one reasonable size screen, and my side looking at my screen. And so it helps me to do more in a learning environment. But it doesn't make my baggage any lighter. So, I often I'm wandering around. I've got a little bit too much with me. On the camera gear front, I've gotten a lot better. I have one of the behemoth 200 to 400 lenses that I use for my wildlife here domestically here in Japan, but I haven't taken that overseas in a number of years. I've just recently gone to mirrorless, which is helping me to shrink my kit down a little bit more. So now I'm traveling a little bit more light as far as the weight on my back. I need to work on my portable computing a little bit more though, maybe. But I think things will change.
Yeah, it sounds like, you're bringing that as a very purpose-driven thing. And it sounds like that's a part of your job in a sense, right? You want your students to be able to experience that. So that sounds like it sounds like you're bringing the right tools for the job.
I like to think so. And I think that's one of the main things that I try to do. Even with my, as I said earlier, I open my wallet a little bit too easily sometimes. I've gotten better over the years because everything I pay for has to be earned yen for yen directly by me now, rather than getting bonuses and things from my corporate job in the past. But I have a policy that if I don't use a piece of gear for a year, I sell it. And so, there are a few lenses in my cabinet that I've got slated now for taking to the local store and getting them sold. Partly because I've changed to the mirrorless, and I have a few that I really can do without now. But yeah, I don't. If I don't use something, I get rid of it. If I need something, I don't mind too much, having to take it with me. But it's all good. It works out. I think the whole experience in the end is great, and I'm traveling a lot lighter now than I was a few years ago. So it's all good.
Yeah, it feels good to be able to still do what you love and, have a minimal piece of gear. And, we see that's just the way the technology goes, like laptop computers are getting lighter and lighter and more powerful. And, I've got my iPad Pro, and I'm actually selling my laptop right now because I just don't use it anymore. I use my laptop maybe a couple times a year. I mean, keep in mind, I have big desktop computers that I use all the time. So I'm not only on my iPad, but when I'm personally out and about, it's just my iPad. And, I think that's kind of the way technology goes. Things get smaller and lighter. And, for us creatives who use so much technology, it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, you've got we talked about Procreate. Are there any other apps that you have that you'd like to talk about that are you feel that you just can't do without, or they're just really cool? Anything else in your ecosystem?
Things that are non-Adobe apps.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, anything at all.
I mean, I've just started using the new Lightroom for mobile and desktop from Adobe. Yeah. And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, to be honest, because I've been a Lightroom Classic user for a long time, and there are some things that I have issues with about that program, but for the most part, I think it works really well. So when they came out with the new Lightroom, honestly, I wasn't sure if it was going to fit into my ecosystem. And I decided I was going to make a tutorial teaching people how to use this program. So I was like, okay, I want to teach people how to use this program. So first, I need to spend a good amount of time learning how to use the program.
Yeah.
And in that time, I actually was like totally sold on this, on the new program. I think they've done a fantastic job with it. The idea of like professional editing raw photos on your phone or your tablet is a reality now. Like it really is very, very good. And that was something that I was genuinely surprised about. I kind of thought it was going to be like halfway there, but the integration that they have, because the program, for anyone who hasn't used it, basically there's a desktop version of it, there's a mobile version of it, and then there's a tablet version of it. But everything that you do syncs to the cloud. So a change that you make on one platform automatically syncs to the other platforms. And nowadays, Apple is, I think they're just about to release the new operating system for the iPad, in which they're going to allow you to plug in your SD card right into your iPad.
I've heard that.
Download images.
Yeah.
A friend of mine got the beta, and he's off traveling right now using the beta. So I'm interested to hear what he says. But basically the idea that I can be on location, I can shoot a day's worth of images, plug them into my iPad, and as long as I have an okay internet connection, I can sync everything to the cloud, and my backup is done. I can edit those images right there on the iPad, whether I'm online or offline, and all those changes are synced across all my devices. So I don't have to do anything twice. I'm not storing my photos twice. I mean, the one downside with the cloud is if you're in Namibia, in the middle of the desert, all the cloud storage in the world is not going to do you any good because you don't have any internet signal.
Right.
So there's a downside there.
Yeah.
Obviously, thankfully, device storage is getting pretty good, and the new iPad OS will also have the ability, I believe, to plug in SSD hard drives as well. So that's to me, that's exciting. That's like, okay, cool. Like I really can stop using my laptop. Like that's really, really cool.
I think I was talking with one of my a member of my audience about this. I think it was on last week's post where about my switching around a little, and for me, I actually in 2016 I'd been an avid Lightroom user since the beta, and I was completely Lightroom, but I actually switched to Capture One Pro in 2016. So I'm already out of the Lightroom ecosystem. But it's interesting to hear your opinion on that, because I can't see Capture One or Phase One bringing out a Capture One Pro version for the iPad at any time soon. So for me, because I'm still in this, I'm in this ecosystem. I'm enjoying it. I love Capture One. So for me, the option isn't there, but it is definitely interesting to hear that we'll soon be able to just plug in SSD drives and things directly into the iPad. Do you know, have you heard whether that will be just for the latest versions of the iPad, or is it the older Pros as well?
I don't know. I hope they bring it to the older Pros. I really do.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be the first iPad specific operating system. I think they're calling it iPad OS. So my guess is it should be the old ones. But here's my other suggestion too, because I have been using Lightroom for desktop and mobile for editing raw photos that were taken with a high-end camera, and it's been flawless. But I just happened to have the program on my phone because I was learning how to use it. And what I realized is you can edit phone pictures on this too.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, totally blown away. So, I've started just like pictures that I take on my phone. If I want to enhance them in any way, it's become my go-to editing software for just my smartphone pictures too. Because, there are a lot of great photo editing programs for the phone. But because I was, already into this program, I find that it's fantastic. So, obviously, it's great for high-end photos, but it totally works really, really well for just smartphone photos too.
Yeah. So for video, obviously, you're creating videos on a weekly basis. What program do you use for video?
We use Premiere.
So.
Yeah. And these days, thankfully, we actually have a team of people who edit videos. Because for anyone who's edited video, it's bless them, because it's a tedious process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and it's something where relatively early on in the process, I realized the less time I spent editing, the more time I could spend creating. So we use. We're pretty into the Adobe suite here. At our company. We teach Adobe products, but we are in no way associated with Adobe. We don't do, like if we wanted to teach Affinity Photo tomorrow, there's no reason why we couldn't do that. And I am personally interested in these other pieces of software and kind of seeing where they go, because at the end of the day, we're an education company, and I want to teach people what they want to learn. With these other programs, like making a real statement in the marketplace, a lot more people are going to be moving to these other programs. And my goal is to be there to help those people learn these programs as well.
So I asked about the video because I in my post last week, I'd been saying that I probably would be, unless there was an alternative came out, I would probably end up going to Final Cut Pro. But to be completely honest, I was thinking Final Cut Pro, that's a hefty software to buy, a piece of software to buy anyway. And probably the lack of enthusiasm was because I was also very happy that when Premiere Pro was one of the apps that I did get along with really well. Like Photoshop, I've got a lot of muscle memory with Photoshop, and so it's more difficult to move away. But a number of people in the comments to that post were telling me about DaVinci Resolve. Have you tried that as a video package?
I've not tried DaVinci Resolve. I've heard good things too, and it's one of those things. Pretty early on, we looked at a bunch of different software suites, and Premiere just kind of has always seemed like powerful enough to do what we wanted to do with it.
Well, if you're in the cloud, it's the natural choice. There's no need to look for something, because it's one of the industry standards, right?
Yeah, it's always been really good. And I did edit with Final Cut Pro for a number of years, and I don't know the current status of Final Cut Pro, but early on it was like a pretty hefty editing program. Like it was pretty substantial, and I believe they made a cut. They made a change where they kind of simplified it, like pretty greatly. I'm pretty sure this is Final Cut Pro.
And I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, when they made that change, it was like I couldn't do some of the stuff I wanted to do anymore. And maybe I could, I just like couldn't figure out where it was or what
Yeah.
button I needed to press or whatever. And that's when I made the switch to Premiere and kind of haven't really looked back since.
Yeah, yeah. I've downloaded DaVinci. It's actually I wish they'd charge for their lower level. They've got like their studio version, which is $299, the same as Final Cut. But their low end one is free. And I'm like, free doesn't really work for me. And although, I mean, like, I understand, you're putting out free content, I'm putting out free content, but it just doesn't, it seems as though for a package that is as powerful as it seems to be, I wish they'd charge like at least a little bit for it. But I've grabbed the free version. I'm going to give it a good go. Probably do a little bit of editing over this next few days with it. I've got a few things, and this conversation, I'll probably put this out as both video and audio for the guests, for the listeners or viewers. So I'll be jumping in there and provide a little bit more on DaVinci Resolve in due course as well. But I'll tell you what. Let's. I heard that you've given us. We'll go back to talking about your amazing the PHLEARN system. I heard that you've been kind enough to give us a discount if anyone wants to sign up for your subscription. So so if the code MBP20 will give folks a 20% discount. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they would, and people would get that discount and what they can expect to get for their subscription?
Yeah, sure. So PHLEARN is basically, it used to be a la carte where you would purchase tutorials individually, and we, just like Adobe, we had talked about earlier, moved to subscription. We're a little bit different in that it's education. So like the idea, you basically pay an annual is the cheapest way to go. And with this discount, it's even cheaper. But basically, you get access to every single video that we release, and we're constantly releasing new tutorials. So you can use the code that Martin suggested. Maybe it'll be in the show notes. What is MBP?
Yeah, I'll put it in. MBP20. I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Fantastic. So you could just use that during checkout to save 20%, and basically you get the entire history of everything that we've ever taught on PHLEARN. So obviously we've got hundreds of free tutorials, but we've got fantastic, super in-depth pro tutorials teaching things like retouching, compositing, special effects. We also have stuff just on the basics. Like if you want to just brush up on your Photoshop skills, we have a great tutorial called The Beginner's Guide to Photoshop. We teach photography and Lightroom as well, Lightroom Classic and Lightroom for mobile and desktop. So really kind of like the entire, I feel like my background as a photographer and my goal with PHLEARN is to teach everything that a photographer would possibly want to learn from a post-production standpoint and also from a photography standpoint as well. The thing that I'm most excited about this subscription is that we continue to release new videos. Like every 2 weeks we come out with a pro tutorial. So the value just gets better and better over time. And we find so many people who come in and they're like, you know what, I just wanted to brush up on my Photoshop skills. So they'll start with a tutorial like The Beginner's Guide to Photoshop. And then they're like, wait, what is this cool stuff I can do with compositing? Oh my God, I had no idea you could do this really, really creative stuff with Photoshop too. And that kind of pushes their creativity in a way and kind of helps them along that journey. And that to me is so cool. And because again, you get access to every single tutorial, you can kind of just go wherever your interests take you.
Yeah, I love that you're doing it that way. I have actually, that makes me feel better as well, because I've been doing my own sort of MVP Pro subscription that, and I'm just starting now a mentorship program as well. But the Pro subscription, it's basically provides a number of benefits, but one of them is a fully formatted ebook with every post that I release. And I've been debating whether or not to try to block the older ones so that people can only get the ones for the subscribe month. But at the moment, you can still download everything for almost a year ago. And I think I'm just, based on what you've just told me, I think I'm going to leave it that way because it obviously, I mean, they're there and it feels a little bit, this is why it's not been changed yet, but it feels a bit stingy to block them off just because you're not getting a subscription for the older months. So people can still currently go back and press the little button at the top of each post and get the ebooks from everything from just a little bit under a year. So I think I'm going to leave it like that based on what you just said.
Yeah, I think that's great. And because the whole idea is like the longer a person stays with you, the more value they're going to get. They can go back and check out these past archives at any time. And, I think for us, because we are we're a small education company, and we release tutorials twice a month. And I would love it if we could do twice a day, but we put a lot of there's a lot of time and energy that
goes into them.
There's a lot of work that goes into them. Yeah. Exactly. So for us, it's like, okay, we put a ton of energy into releasing. For instance, we just released today, August 22nd, 2019, we released Master Retouching Hair. We talked about this earlier. It's a fantastic 4-hour tutorial just on retouching hair.
Yeah.
But the deal is, let's say you're a subscriber and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just not that interested in retouching hair. Well, guess what? This video released 2 years ago that's still amazing. This might be exactly what you are interested in learning. So this could be this could be the thing that you want, or the thing that we're going to release. We do our best to try to stagger like subjects of what we release. So we released a retouching hair video this time. The next tutorial that we are going to release, which will be in 2 weeks, is actually about improving Photoshop performance and kind of talking more about the technical things about like how a computer functions and how that relates to the programs and how you can optimize things.
Yeah, so that's a good mix. Yeah.
We try to give a good balance in there. That way it's, if the release, if the current release isn't something there for you, then the next one, there's a good chance it will be. And then you get access to the entire library of everything we've ever released. And it's, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of content. So there's a good chance for you.
So I remember a number of years ago, and we spoke about this off air earlier, and I'm not sure if we were actually on a show together, but we have our mutual friend, Frederick Van Johnson. I remember when he spoke about PHLEARN, he spoke about it very highly, and he jumped in and taken a look at some of the lessons. And so I'm thinking, well, if you've impressed Frederick, you're obviously doing a lot right. But I do know, you've got a great reputation for creating quality products, and I wish you all the best with the continued success of PHLEARN. And thank you so much for the code for my audience. So that's MVP20, and people can go and check it all out at phlearn.com, right? So PHLEARN.com. Okay.
That's right.
Do you publish anything as Aaron Nace? Do you publish photos or things online? Have you got anywhere that people can go and check you personally out, or you don't do that?
I have a personal Instagram, but it's just I'm happy to share. It's at AK Nacer, AKN as in Nancy, ACER. But it's pictures of my dog and my family.
I see.
It's like, you're welcome to check it out.
You're putting all of your creative energy into PHLEARN, and that's good. That's gonna take the whole experience as far as it can possibly go. So good stuff.
Exactly. And we've got such a great team of people here too. So like I'm just one part of the creative puzzle. So like all of our energy combined, we can create some incredible products and very, very consistently. And to me, it's just so cool to be a part of that team. So it's one of those things where like relatively early on, I was like, am I okay kind of putting my own brand in the back seat for a while I build this other brand? And for a while, it was a little bit of a struggle, to be honest. And I'm so happy that I've spent energy into this brand, because it's grown to something that's, as a team, we've been able to build something much larger than I would have ever been able to create on my own. And I'm super happy to just put, all of my creative energy into the company. And, after all, we're a tight knit group of people, who work here. And it really is a lot more of a collaboration. Just about every project that we do. We did brainstorming for a tutorial we're going to be recording tomorrow. It'll be a photography tutorial on like desktop, like photographing things from the top down, like product photography. And, I had some ideas from it. One of our video editors had some ideas. Our production manager had some ideas. And at the end of the day, we kind of decided, well, why don't you take like point on this one? I'll just be like the talent or whatever, but you just tell me what to do. So we're trying something new out there. So it really is a lot of fun to have like more of a collaborative style.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds amazing. Well, Aaron, thank you so much. I think we've got plenty for the audience to dig into there. Thanks again for the code, and thanks very much for your time. I know it's your early evening over there, so very much appreciated.
Thanks so much, Martin.
Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Aaron Nace. Once again, you can get to the links and a few bits of extra information over on the blog at mbp.ac/675. Thanks for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, etc. And links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com. So do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.